I see the world in a way that for me it's very clear, but it's not about me. I look like what's underneath that and what do I want to do. And I think connection in diversity is very important. So we need to stay connected with each other and keep talking, keep being inspired and curious about each other. And no matter what is your status of whatever.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Oto Gomes Show. Thank you for joining me. I'm your host, Oto Gomes. Today, we have a special guest. She's actually one of my students, and I'm so happy to have her here on this podcast. Anneke Sips is of service to support others through sacred processes of crises, change and transformation, investing time, space, and unconditional presence for the harvest of the pearls that can be found in the deepest darkness. She deeply believes that true healing, transformation, and wholeness come from facing the darkness, the numbness, and the suppressed part of ourselves and the world around us. She's the creator of Illuminate the Dark Night of the Soul program, where she is supporting others to prepare for crises and get better at it. She also is a licensed community psychiatric nurse, RN, trauma therapist, yoga therapist, and mother in The Hague, the Netherlands. She offers trainings for care professionals, maintains a private practice, and is currently writing a book called The Wisdom of Psychosis. Thank you, Annika. How are you today?
Well, thank you so much for having me here in your show. And actually, I'm doing very good because the autumn is happening, and I love transformations and changes and etc. And at the same time, I was just telling you that right before the show starts, my laptop kind of collapsed. So that's very interesting. Feeling very good and feeling very unsettled at the same time. So that's already a good experience to show that it's possible to actually feel good in life. But in this present moment, I noticed a little bit unsettling feelings, which is fine. Like we can deal with it. But yeah.
Yeah, I love it when that happens, right? When the universe starts testing you to see how good you really are in the practice and the career you're doing.
Yeah, it's you're talking about you can learn how to deal with crisis better. Sure you do. Like, you want to talk about it. You got another
Let's
one.
See. That's what they say, right? When you pray for patience, you're going to get a lot of volatility, right? You're going to get a lot of chaos that's going to test the patience. It's not the patience itself that's going to come.
Exactly.
Good stuff. What I love doing with these interviews is getting people that are not just, famous for what they're doing. I have had a lot of people that have already gone down that road of getting that kind of fame and getting that kind of awareness and perspective on themselves, but also people that are bridging, that are creating the bridges, that are doing the work that maybe haven't gotten to that point yet. And I really wanted to get you on to just, seeing someone that is actually doing the work, that's actually doing the work to create that bridge. So what I like to do is get to know you better. I want to get to know your journey and how you got to this point. Cause I feel like a lot of my listeners like to connect to that and see and relate, and connect to, where you've been at on your journey in the past to see how you got to this point. So tell me a little bit about your journey, in your life, and what specifically was the red pill moment, that moment that really kind of shook you out of the normalized, behavior of society.
Well, quite some red pills in my life, but especially the last couple of years. But not only the last couple of years. I think it started at a very young age when I was, even before 16. Like I wanted to say 16 because there like a big life event happened. But even before that time, at my young, early youth, let's say, where I grew up in the Netherlands, in the south of Holland, which is the same as the Netherlands and Holland. So I lived in the south, which is a Catholic area. So I was born Catholic. That's what happened. But my father, he actually started to get into Jehovah's Witness when I was 6 years old. And so this was between my 6 and 16 when I stepped out. That's why I said this is a life event. But those 10 years were pretty interesting, let's say. This whole journey from like we were Catholic, but not really practicing religious people. And my father, he became very like neurotic about it. Like he took it very, very serious, and he didn't really know how to do this and how to combine this and bridge this in a family life. And anyway, it just happened. And around my 12, 13, I really started to have my first deeper questions, like what is life about, and why would or like I was having doubts. Like I didn't want to do this walking from door to door and stuff like that. I didn't want to do it anymore. So I already had my first questions, like, am I accepted, or am I okay the way I am if I'm not being part of your religion? So it's very interesting because there I was really like almost begging to my father, like, can you please see me for one time without these glasses on? And this is something that now, fast forward 30 years, I see still happening sometimes within myself, but also with people around me and in my work. And like, sometimes it's very hard to be with others who see life very different than you do. So I met this issue at a very young age, so I had to deal with it. And well, things happened. Maybe we'll talk about it a little bit more, how I learned to deal with this. But it has been very important in the way I've been shaping my views on things, and especially the way I shaped my idea about thinking different about certain topics. Because this is what happened. My father had a very strong belief, and I was kind of figuring out what my belief was. And there we had a clash. And in the beginning, not so much, but then I grew older, and so we were clashing big times there. But it taught me a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I totally get around the religion topic. I grew up Pentecostal Christian. Actually, when I lived in Brazil, we were Catholics. And then when we came to the US, my parents started going to a Pentecostal church. And then I was like 7 or 8 when I came to the US. So I barely knew either, but grew up Pentecostal Christian. And then as I got around 13 to 15 years old, I was like, this is great. But like, I started feeling that I grew up in sort of a bubble, of perspective, very limited. Because when I went to college, or when I went to high school, really, and then into college, I was like, whoa, there's so many different types of people out there. Like, it's not just this way of living. So for you, you said it was around 13, 14 when you started to question?
Yeah, I started to question. And at this time, I was kind of the black sheep, like the difficult one, the one who was asking too many questions. But I didn't really, I felt it didn't really hurt me. I was just keep doing it. Like it didn't hold me from questioning. But in this, how do you say this? In this, in this church, let's say, you could tell that I was not being accepted the way the others were. Like the more, it's just, you feel there's a little bit of a difference, but it's okay. So this was like 13, 14. I started to question, which is, I think, also, this is what you do as a youngster. This is the part of your development where you start to realize that not only am I a human, I'm a person. And you start to develop your ego, and this around 8, 9, 10, and then you start to look more into the world and see what is my place in the world and what do I believe. And it's actually a very beautiful position and a beautiful journey, and a little bit how do you say this? A missed opportunity for parents if you are not able to give your child a space. And I see that my father wasn't able. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say that's a big one right there. You're the parent wanting to protect your child, and you believe that your way helped you survive to that point. So it's like, I got to teach my children to be this way because that's what helped me. When in reality, you might be creating the limitations and creating more, suppression of their own expression, of their own ability to find who they are. Oof, that's a big topic right there.
It's big.
So for you, did you jump? You did. Would you say that inspired you to do what you do today, or did you have to go through some more growth? Like, did you just have a regular job? Did you do anything in between the time that you experienced that to now?
Yes, definitely. So then 12, 13 years old, 14, 15, 16. At 16, a big life event happened where I got in an accident. And this accident was a very small accident, but with a very big impact because my liver broke. And so this was a life-challenging accident where I ended up in the hospital, and I had to go to the emergency room immediately, getting a blood transfusion. Yeah, it's not allowed in that religion. So
in that, you're right.
Yeah,
wow.
Jehovah's Witness, they don't allow blood transfusion. So there was the moment where my father actually said no to this. But in Holland, there's a law where the doctors, they're doing it anyway. Well, it's an interesting topic as well. How to deal with what parents want for their children, and how the doctors do things anyway. Because it became all again a topic in the whole Corona time, I think. But anyway, this happened to me, and the doctor did give me a blood transfusion. This is why I'm alive. So I'm grateful for this. And then after my recovery, 16 years old, I decided to step away from this religion. So that means that you get excommunicated officially. And that also means that the whole community cannot speak with you anymore. So these are all very important parts of my development. What I see that I really integrated in the work that I did, because after that, like 2 years later, at 18 years old, I started to work in psychiatry already. And I always felt very much drawn to working with people who were marginalized, or who had who were not really accepted in society. So this is how I started to work in psychiatry. And well, this was the best decision for me, because I loved it from the beginning, and still I love working with mental health, although it's very different now than back then, because I started as a nurse, as a psychiatric nurse, just studying and then working in psychiatry. And through the years, I developed myself and studied more, and etc. I grew into like the trauma therapist and future author that I am, if my book survived on my computer.
It did survive.
Yeah, it did. Yeah,
it was just a screen.
It's just a screen.
If you guys don't know her, she was trying to get on, and her computer screen died. But I believe the data is still there. I think you're good.
Me too. Yeah, that helps my nervous system a little bit. Thank you.
It's the universe testing us every day.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Wow, that's really cool. So, would you say that? So you started down that path very young, 18, 19, right? When you started looking into that, that's really cool. A lot of people take a long time to get to that point, especially nowadays, of what they want to do for the rest of their lives or what do they want to identify with. But it seems like you found that path very quickly through your experiences. And that's really, for you, though, for those listening, that's gold right there. It's like, what do I do with my life? Well, look at your experiences, look at your life, look at how you got to the point that you got to, and reflect on that. And that will bring you answers. That will give you that clarity. Now, come 2020, right? 2020 rolls around and the lockdowns and COVID and all these things started happening. Would you say that things shifted for your practice? Did you notice any differences in the type of patient you were getting, client you were getting with their traumas and anxiety or anything like that?
Yeah, totally. I think the world turned upside down for everybody, and I saw that for a lot of people, the isolation became greater. So even more isolated, more challenged in that way. It was a very difficult time. It shook everybody up, I think, where especially also the difficulties that came with the different opinions and the people that were not connecting anymore. So that has been difficult, and I think people lost friends, they lost family, which I hear many people also speaking now about it as being grateful for to gain that clarity, let's say. But it has been difficult. It has been very traumatic, and it's not easy. It's really like a dark night of the soul for many people. Where you're going through in these moments, and I see that still now a lot of people are didn't completely bounce back from that. So people are still, and especially in the social, I think in the social parts, that people they lost friends or they lost their community, and they found it difficult to get back on their feet. Which is not always per se a problem, because it's also kind of an interesting place to be to research yourself and see where you're at. But it does bring also a lot of stress and anxiety and pain and suffering. And I think in my practice, definitely I hear more people who tell stories about suicide, that they had more people in their environment that committed suicide or something like this. So I think
Wow.
very big impression on people.
Because you're in Netherlands right now, correct?
Yeah, I was most of the
Yeah.
I lived in Amsterdam before, and now I live in The Hague, which is a city at the coast. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Do you work with clients only in Netherlands or around the world?
No, I work around the world, so potentially everybody can see me also via Zoom. But most people I see are from the Netherlands and Europe, also because of the time difference sometimes. But because I have a lot of experience working with psychosis, and this is and complex trauma, and the combination of complex trauma and psychosis, which is for a lot of people very interesting, and they want to work with me, because I have also a particular way of looking at these things. Like, I don't even want to call it disease, let's say. Yeah.
So if you can just, for our audience, break down what do you mean by psychosis? What does that actually mean? Like when a person has that as a symptom.
So what I mean with that, then I would say this is a normal human experience. So this is a normal human experience that we all have sometimes on a spectrum. We are all on a spectrum between, let's say, balanced health or completely out of control nutcase. Like, we are all there sometimes. And then we are flowing on that spectrum depending on maybe the season, the time of the day, maybe the season in our lives. Are we in our youth? Are we in around menopause? Are we dealing with life circumstances that are very difficult? How are the global circumstances? So a lot of things are happening, and I think those things, make us react in a certain way. And this is not only psychosis, but I think all psychiatric labels we can see in every human being in different stages or periods in a person's life. Like all of us are sometimes a little bit depressed. And all of us have not all of us maybe, but many of us are sometimes depressed, or they have a pinch of depression, or a lot of depression, or a little bit of autism, or very autistic. Like there's, I think, a whole wide spectrum where we all move around. And it's not always so easy if we look at it in this way, because then we like to categorize things, and it's easier.
I agree with that. I agree with that. I feel like Western medicine likes to name things. They like to label things and name it. Why? Because it's easier to create the forms. It's like they can quantify each individual thing and put value to it, and it's a money business. So I agree with that. I think that a lot of really all this psychology is a spectrum, and the less we put labels to it and start looking at it as a spectrum, it's a little easier to navigate. It's a little easier to, to see where you're at, and then be able to make the changes through awareness to find the balance. That was a great explanation. I love that. That was really, really well said. I appreciate that. So with everybody that you've worked with in these last, let's say 4 or 5 years now, what would you say has been the number one topic that has caused, trauma to be brought back up, or expressed, or more anxiety? What would you say has been the number one topic? I know for a long time it was always around money, and the economy, but maybe marriage. But has that shifted, or has that been consistent?
Well, I used to think it was money, God, and sex. Like those are topics that are causing a lot of issues, I think, in general. But I see now that it's even a little bit more broader. I think what causes the most issues is when you cannot. It has to do with safety. I think when it's unsafe, because the nervous system is just out of balance, then, and all kind of stuff happens and is in disbalance. And when you cannot be yourself, and this is linking also to the other topic that we were talking about before. If you cannot be yourself, but you're being placed in a very small container, that I think is causing issues. And because your self-healing system, your self-developing system is just not working correctly, then you're being forced in a shape or in a way where it's more efficient or more cheap, but it's not what a human being needs. A human being is nature, and nature needs to be free. And but also what nature needs is space and time and trust. And if there's no space and time, then it's better to put people in little boxes, because then you can control it, and it's way easier. You can fix it and you can control it. But it's a trauma reaction, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. I love the way you said that. If there's no space and time, they're in a little box. And that's so true. That's so well said. Because also, space and time in my mind is reality. Space, time, matter. But just space and time, if you don't have space and time, you can't have matter. Like you need all three for everything to work. Wow, that was really good. Yeah, that's what it is. That's what it is. And
space and time. Space and time are the most important medicines. I often say this, like almost to everybody, but especially, and I would love to say something about it, are people who think or other people think that they are on the spectrum of autism, ADHD, or ADD, because that's a big group. That's something that I see popping up in my practice a couple of times a day. Sometimes, like people are coming
Wow.
in and they are. And they say, well, yeah, I would like to see, like I have some symptoms, and could you see if I have ADHD or ADD or something on the autistic spectrum? And the first question I always ask, like, who has a problem with you? Like, what is
Yeah.
the problem?
Who put that in your mind? Like, who put those words in
Yeah,
your mouth right now? Yeah.
yeah. But what is the problem? Like, what is going on? And there's always a lack of space there, because those people, which are many people who come with this kind of complaint or question, they're always the intuitives, the sensitive ones, the creative ones, the artists. And what they try to do is put themselves in a small box, and then they are wondering why they don't sleep well, why their body hurts, why everything is not going so great in their lives. So after only like 5 or 10 minutes, we already in a conversation about how can we add a little bit more space and time in your life, because this is the great medicine. Because actually, what you experience is your greatest power. These are the
Mm.
pearls, and you should not suppress it. It's not going anywhere. Well, it's not. This is a little bit too quick. I'm not saying it is quick, but it is that this is truly what I believe in. Like, this is a pearl that we carry with us. These powers.
This whole conversation just reminded me that when I was younger, when I was in middle school, um, my teachers didn't like my behavior. They didn't like how I was. And they were suggesting to my parents to put me on medication, on ADHD medication or ADD, I think. It was like Ritalin and something else. And my mom fought back and she's like, no, he's just being a kid. What are you talking about? And I love it. Like, looking back now, I'm like, my mom saved my life with that pushback. Because I
Totally.
had a friend. Well, I had a friend who was kind of similar to me. We were both Brazilians, and he was put on Ritalin, and he just not dumbed down, but just got like heavy. Like, he wasn't as happy or funny, and totally created a whole new personality in him over the years. But what would you say for parents that are listening that maybe has an overactive child, or is getting that kind of feedback from their teachers?
Hmm. Yeah, it's really a big issue. Like, a lot of people are dealing with this. So I do feel the struggle, and I do feel or I can imagine it's very complicated, and you want them to, because the parents, they want to do the best for their child. They want they want them to have all the options open, and to really go into their potential. That's what I hear often. Like, there's so much potential in you, and all these options I want you to have the opportunity to have all these options. Well, I believe that when people, kids, teenagers, are close to themselves, that there is the true potential. But it has a lot to do with trust. Like, really, really connect with yourself and with your gut, connect with your child, and connect with the trust. That if you are connected with your child, it will end up fine. There's more ways that lead to Rome. But if we're looking at what, especially the media, because it's just a fence, it's in fashion. I see that also, because I'm there already 25 years. I see that some things are in fashion at some times and out of fashion in other times. Then other things are in fashion. Then burnouts are more in fashion. You see, everybody writes and talks about burnouts. But now I see clearly that ADHD and ADD are in fashion. And yeah, I would definitely at least hesitate a little bit. And also, I respect people's free choice totally. And if you make a decision based on common sense, and if you make a decision based on having truly all the information, and that's fine. I know also people who take the medication when they want it. So they have this in their house and they use it before they have to do a test in school or something. It's their own choice what they do. But most of the time, if I ask them, like, do you know what this the diagnosis is all about, and you know what this medication is all about, they have just no idea. Nobody ever told them
Yeah.
about the side effects, or so that's the thing that I find very sad, honestly. But if people,
Yes.
if they have all the information and they want to make that choice, or they use a little bit of the medication only when they have a test, up to you. You can make your own decisions. But to I don't know, to put all these medications in small children that don't have their own saying in it, just because they will be a little bit more quiet in school, I find it very sad. And
I do
especially
too.
working with the small children, if I see the mothers coming in with the smaller children, first I would love to ask the mother, how are you doing? But this is not always very appreciated. So they're like, okay, can we find another therapist? But it's like if
Yeah.
there's an issue,
Yeah.
if your child has problems focusing on concentrating, like what's going on, and what's going on in the family and the system. Especially a small child is never only by itself. It's always connected to the rest of the family.
Oh, I 100% agree with that. I've read in a few different books. One of them was with Joe Dispenza. I think it was You Are the Placebo, I believe. But he talks about up until the age of 8 to 9 years old, the child is in theta, their brain is in theta, and it's like a sponge. It's absorbing information based on the actions they're seeing, the sounds, the tension in the air. It's like a different way of learning until you get out of theta, and then you start learning through the dialogue, the conversation, the words. So that's a great approach. It's like, hey, what's happening in the family unit, in the dynamic of the family. That has more information on how the child is behaving than really anything else, that's being taught. But
And without
overall, I agree with you.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
without judgment is very important, because it's
Right.
okay. And very often you hear, okay, the father is very similar, or the mother, or the grandfather, or and if not, if the parents are both like, no idea, this is so different than we are, then again I would say cherish that. There is a little magic sensitive being in your family. Cherish that. Why would you take that away and make it, like numb it, let's say? Why would you do this? Like,
I would love to, like, when I have kids, I don't have kids yet, but I would love to have that reaction. It's like, they're so different than me. I
yeah,
feel like I would love that, because it's like, yeah, they're supposed to be. They're
yeah.
supposed to be. They're the next generation. And it's almost like instead of falling to the indoctrination of the family, I don't want to say indoctrination, the normalization, the normalized behavior of the family, the child probably felt, I don't want that. I'm going to do exactly the opposite, and be exactly the opposite because that feels better. Cool. That's awesome. That's bringing your family to the next level, to the next enmeshment of experience.
And
Now,
society and the schools.
and
Yeah.
society. Yeah, exactly. Adjusting.
Like, how can we
Now,
create a society where all people fit instead of the other way around?
yes, yeah. So,
Yeah.
so actually, that leads to my next question. We saw it from this side of the perspective of parents and being on that side in comparison to what's happening in society. But my question to you is, why do you think modern societies are uncomfortable with spiritual sensitivity and having these expressions and experiences that don't conform to rational or scientific explanations?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. I think, first of all, as a society, we're a little bit numbed. So we are
Mm.
numbed to the ability of allowing differences to be alive or to be there. So this is, I think, a very interesting one, important one, and also, yeah, I think we're making protocols about everything, and everything needs to make money. So I think money is a very important reason. So this is also your topic, of course. Yeah. So the power and the money that that plays a role when we put labels and diagnosis and the medication and this whole industry on people. It's very difficult, I think, to get rid of this. And yeah, before you need to be very strong to not be absorbed by this influence.
Yes, that was a great answer. This is something we teach in the academy when it comes to your own self-identity. The school system, I don't know how it is in the Netherlands. Here in the US, it's basically the current education system hasn't changed at all in over 130 years. It's been exactly the same. Everything else has changed. Cars have gotten better, buildings and building materials and entertainment, movies, but the education system, it's still these little square boxes, and we're creating cogs in a machine, and it has to be efficient and cheap. And, it's not being nurtured like it should be. But, what happens with that system is that the child loses their ability to create an identity for themselves. And, whether it's the drugs that they're putting on the child or the format, the environment that they're in, it's like shredding their ability to become themselves. And what I've learned, at least in my own journey, is that if you are identifying with anything outside of yourself, right, whether it's your career, your license that you have, how much money you have in the bank, how much material things you have, if you really want to go down the rabbit hole, even your name, which is something outside of yourself, then you are giving power to something outside of yourself. You're externalizing your power and your self-worth. And then you'll always need that thing to feel worthy, to feel successful, to feel. So what steps do you think that we could start taking in modern society to stop, pathologizing? Is that the right word? I can't say it right now. That word, just, discriminating spiritual sensitivity and instead honor it as a valuable aspect of human experience. What do you think that we can start doing?
Well, it has everything to do with, I think, being present, and I call this sacred presence, because in the age of mindfulness and yoga, and everybody speaking about being present and being aware, etc., which is great. Like the more people speak about it and practice, the better. But I think even when you are already a little bit awake and aware to that concept of being present, become more aware of being that and become more present, and not just being present with, like what mindfulness teaches, like being present with all these sensations without judgment, but really, I feel like meditation is very important here. Like the tool where we learn to focus our attention to something of our choice and keep it there. Very simple. This is what meditation is. So I choose where I put my focus, and it stays there, it sounds very simple, but it's not very simple, I think. And it needs a lot of practice, but I think the intimacy of the deep presence, what we can experience, I think this is very important, because there, I believe and I trust that there the answers just will be found. But we need to be able to be very present, and we're not very able to be present because we are stuck in our own system, in our nervous system. So we are very much created, because of how life developed and how we are, living our lives. We get often in patterns of stuckness in our lives. So if we know a little bit how the polyvagal theory works, it's in very simple. I always explain it's like traffic light, green, orange, and red. If you're in green, this is where you feel safe and connected and where you're alive. And if you're in orange or in red, this is where you're surviving. So orange is the fight and flight, and the red, let's say, is the freeze. And in red, in the freeze, is where we are feeling stuck. This is also where dissociation is, stuckness. Here we cannot connect anymore. There is surrendering going on, but there's surrendering not out of free will. Where in green, we are surrendering out of free will because it feels safe and we are alive. But if we're surviving, and I think, due to the state of being in the time frame that we happen to be born, this is where it's very difficult to find our safety and find our patterns in, let's say, the green zone, in the connection. And so, but I think if we become aware of this, so we learn more about our nervous system, we learn more about our states of being, we develop the skills and we train the skills, we can get better at it. And we actually can find ways to regulate ourselves, and we find ways to find connection again. And I think this is where we are present. This is where the sacredness is. This is where the pearls can be found. But how to unstuck yourself? Because when we're in, like, let's say, orange and fight and flight, there's still movement. But in red, we're stuck. There's no movement anymore. So it's a very interesting place to be, I think.
You said Tony Robbins, I took his course back in the day, and he would always say, where focus goes, energy flows. And then for my academy, I added another one. I said, where focus goes, energy flows, abundance goes.
But that's life. Abundance is life. And if it's financial abundance or, the earth is abundant, life is abundant. This is what we do. We grow, we develop, we evolve, and naturally,
And it's what you said earlier. How can we heal? How can we get unstuck? Space and time. If we give ourselves space and time, maybe we can open the door for the answers, for the solutions. But life is so busy. We have all this entertainment and media, mainstream narratives, and the influence that happens to the collective. So, and then it gets like reverbed back from our friends and family even. So what's, just to give some value to the listeners, what is something that somebody can do today? Like, what's something that they can start practicing today to get better focus and to start, having clarity in the direction they want to move towards?
Well, a very, very important and very simple is like this presence, the intimacy that you can find in presence, is by simply being in the moment where you try to focus on 4 things that you can see, 3 things that you can hear, 2 things that you can smell. This is a very nice little practice, very easy to do. And especially I noticed within myself and also in other people is that the hearing part is very efficient. So the listening, and especially if you are bringing the awareness of your choice, not only to listen, but make it specific. So I want to hear what happens outside. And now I want to hear what happens inside. And now I choose to listen to what's outside. And now I choose, that's a very important word again, I choose to listen to what happens inside. So this is a very simple practice with a lot of things already in there, because you're stopping, you give yourself a break, you pause, which is already great. Then you maybe relax your nervous system a little bit, focusing on a sound instead of all the other 100,000 things that are in your mind.
Oh, and that's such a great practice. Oh, sorry. Finish up.
Oh, yeah. But also, I think the act of choosing. And it doesn't really matter what kind of choice you make. You can make a big life-changing choice of marry somebody, But you can also make the choice of, I choose that I'm going to sit here and listen to what's outside of this room. And now I choose to listen what's inside of this room. Because having a choice is very important in life. And this is also what we need to train. We shouldn't just talk about it. We need to practice this. And sometimes it's very difficult to make big decisions. But we can always make these little choices. And if you train yourself to make these little choices, it really empowers you. And it makes it easier to make the bigger changes as well. And the bigger choices. And it directly, it directly gives you more empowerment, feeling of empowerment and strength, instead of being victimized and complaining about everything. But just choose. Yeah, I think so. There's a lot of little things in here, like making a choice is a great practice. The practice of listening, making a little sound yourself, so then you bring your ears even closer, like really to yourself. Just a little sound, very regulating for the nervous system. Yeah.
Love that. Yeah. And everyone listening, it doesn't take much, to start a practice. I always say, how do you eat an elephant? A bite at a time. Make a small change on a daily basis, 1% change. After 180 days, you've completely turned your life around. And that's what it takes, is just being consistent.
Yeah.
Love that. I love that. So, talk a little bit about, this is a huge shift in the conversation, but just to talk a little bit about crypto, because we do crypto and you're one of my students. So, just to keep a little bit on topic, what would you say has been your experience with crypto when it comes to, your relationship to money, your relationship to the systems? Has that shifted? Have you felt something different?
Well, totally, because like we said already, money is it's a very interesting topic. A lot of wars about money, a lot of stress about money. The nervous system regulates in a different way if there's a money issue, or when the money flows in, you immediately feels like in me, I do. When the money flows in, I feel a little bit more relaxed than when my bank account is empty, let's say. So money itself, it has an important impact and plays an important role in everybody's life, I think. But I think by working with crypto, and especially also with you, and before working with you, I was already following you and listening to many of your videos, etc. And it made me more aware. So that whole awareness exercise, this is a very integrative way when working with crypto. Like you're very mindful, and making those mindful choices and taking that responsibility. So exactly what we just did in that little exercise, it's very similar, but then in an integrative way, in a very important element of my life. Yeah.
Love that. Yeah. It's, I still believe that for the majority, the topic of money is just recreating or they're re-experiencing the trauma around the dynamic of their family. Through my research, that's what I found, is like how one relates to money or to that energy is how they viewed themselves in the dynamic of their family. So the relationships they created up and down, whether they have younger brothers or sisters or older brothers or sisters than the parents, where it is, because it's all about worth and value. And it's like, if we're exactly the feeling you have is what I have, by the way. That's something that I've been working on tremendously in the last 3 years or so, where I've been trying to see the value, just like I felt in my body by seeing a lot of money in my account, with relationships, with connection, with love, and trying to increase the volume in that feeling of those things. I don't know, maybe to take away from the impact that seeing the bank account with $0 in has. And it's been a great journey. This is something that we try to reinforce over and over with different challenges, but It's definitely an important topic, I think, for most.
Yeah, and also for like focus, like you need to focus, and I think it's a very great practice for many people where we were so used to, especially also in Holland. This is a very caring country, let's say. So we were always used to the state will take care of us, and we don't more than America. It's very different, I think, in this way that way. Um, but the yeah, I think this is an illusion, by the way. But also the crypto world is bringing such a big level of empowerment, and stepping away from the being stuck in a power dynamic that I don't want to be in. So it created way more awareness for me also to these dynamics and how these dynamics play a role. And then in a larger picture, like money and how money is involved in the world, and with the bigger problems that we see, like following the money, let's say. If you follow the money, then you will end up with big sources of problems, or darkness.
Yeah.
Let's say.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like there's two ways you can approach that phrase. Follow the money is like, yeah, you could pursue money your whole life, and that's all you're ever going to be looking at to determine value and worth and the feelings you want and success. But because it's just a tool, it's not about the actual energy itself, you're going to fall flat. Or you could go follow the money because that's what they use. These big systems, these societies, we've normalized to externalize to money. So once you follow that energy, when you follow the energy flow, you can start seeing the truth of that, specific situation. But yeah, I believe that it's about the relationship that you have with the energy, with the energy of exchange, the energy of, the transacting energy of exchange. Exactly. And how we relate to that will determine how much we get of this tool that is money.
And we see how traumatized we are in this way because we're blocking it. Also me, like I'm not there. I'm not quite far. I feel like I'm still blocking all kind of resources for myself. So I'm still struggling or finding. It's a struggle, but I don't mind the struggle. Let's say. But it is very interesting also how deep it goes, like how many generations, and if you look at the background of our family, but also the country and how we, like the Dutch people, they were traders. So I think we all inherited a little bit of this. And so that's kind of interesting. Like, but on the other hand, also, not just trading, but also stealing. And so there's a lot of trauma.
You ever heard of the theory around 7 generations, like 7 generations back, 7 generations forward? So what I've learned is that we are dealing with trauma for the past 7 generations today. Okay. So what I've learned is that around the 4th to 5th generation is when you get the reaction of that generation to either want to change or stay in it, to like whatever's been normalized. So for the current monetary system, the one that we've normalized in the world now, we're entering into like the 5th generation. So it's like going from the 4th into the 5th. So we have right now, from the current monetary system and how we relate to money, 4 generations back of trauma that we're having to deal with. So we're right in that grasp area that if we don't change now, if we don't start shifting our relationship to it now, then it's going to eat up the last 3, 4, 2 or 3 generations that are left, or 3 or 4 generations that are left, and become the new reality. It will actually normalize a new reality. So really, we are in the exact moment where we need to start making change. And it does start on an individual level. I do have a question for you, just a quick, not funny, but off topic a little bit. One thing we can't take with us when we die is money. I feel like money is the one thing we can't take, or really anything. What is your perspective on death? What do you believe happens after you die?
Well, I'm very happy you asked this because I love talking about death and dying. I'm serious. Like,
It's the
don't
one
ask me
thing
what.
we can all expect.
Yeah, but I was waiting for a moment where I could still go a little bit back to the earlier topic and speak, because it didn't finish where I said something about the green and where growth happens, etc. But by this circular movement of life, dying is also a very important part. So if we're not accepting death, then we're not complete, because we need to die so that the new can be born again. So this is in many also wisdom traditions is all the same in the yogic philosophy, where what I study also since 25 years. And we see that the three greatest like gods, let's say Brahman is the creator, then there's the Vishnu and all the deities that are connected to Vishnu, but this is the preserver, and then there's the Shiva, which is the destroyer. And we need that Shiva power as well as all the other powers in order to get back to life again, to rebirth and renew. So this is, I think, the ongoing. This is what I believe, that this is an ongoing into eternity. And the more we can embrace this eternity, the more calm we can be, and the more accepting and surrendering in this we can be. This is what I believe. So if we try to grab only one of these elements, so we must live and we cannot die. I think this is causing a lot of problems, and it's very counter logic. It's because we all know that we die. Like everything dies, even our skin dies every day, and it peels off, and we get new skin. It's okay. It's totally fine. So I think the better we're able to accept it, the more the easier things flow. And this is like currents, the current, the currency, the flow and the currents and the currency. This is what it's all about, I think. I think being stuck is, being stuck is fine as well, but that's dead, I think. But then, it's a circular,
I love that.
Left or right. Like if you're flowing this direction, that's fine. But if you're stuck, that's the whole thing with the Dark Night of the Soul and my program. So when you are stuck, there's two things you can do. You can try to get out, which is not really possible, or you can really just, embrace it and see how you can find the pearls in the deepest darkness, because there is something to find, but it's not the most easy thing to do. But sometimes you're ending up there anyway. So better make the best of it.
Embrace the death. That's so good. I've seen that a lot in my parents, especially my dad. His whole life, he normalized running away from pain. So as soon as he feels a little bit of pain, he'll take a pill. He'll avoid the pain, because that was connected to death, and he was always deathly afraid of death. But what I'm learning and what you're saying is that if we give ourselves the ability to embrace the darkness, I love your program, being called Dark Night of the Soul. It's allowing yourself to sit in the I don't know, in the chaos of the I don't know, or the darkness that you're going through. And the more you can sit and accept that as being a part of you, then you can start to see the clarity, or get the answers, get the downloads that you need to move forward. But most people, they just want to avoid it. They just want to I know everything is Zen, everything is okay, everything is okay. And it's like, oh.
Yeah. And it's just not the whole truth. It's not always okay. And this is also one group of the people I serve is the people who are in orange. No, I'm fixing everything. Everything is okay. And I'm everything under the carpet. And but there's also another group where the deeper complex trauma and the personality disorders, whatever how they are labeled. I don't use those labels at all. But working for so many years in these deepest depths, and I'm also speaking about satanic ritual abuse, which is also what the people who are coming in my practice are dealing with, which is like it's very extreme. But I find it important also to do this work and to to be with that, because you cannot just fix it. You cannot just fix it. And it's very difficult. Also, it's a very large topic. So
I was going to say, is that happening a lot there in the Netherlands? Satanic
it
ritual
happens
abuse?
a lot everywhere. It happens a lot everywhere.
I know that. Yeah. No, I know
But
that.
in
I just didn't
Netherlands,
know
definitely. Yeah.
like, are they, have you noticed more people wanting to talk about it, I guess is my question.
Well, because people know that I work, that I'm actually accepting them. Like sometimes psychiatry, it's too difficult, or people don't open up about their story too quick. So there's no space for them often. So they are just sitting home, and nobody is helping or supporting or caring. So that's one thing, and it's the programming is very deep. So it's very difficult to speak for a lot of people, and sometimes when they do, they are not believed. So there's a lot of big issues about it, and but I do. Yeah, it's interesting, but I think there were 2 new people this last 6 months that just came through the GP office, because I work 1 day a week in a GP office. So they came with different complaints. They came, probably I'm an autist and I have an addiction, I drink too much, and I'm a nutcase. I've always been very crazy. This was the complaint, let's say. So how can you guide me to new medication or something like that? And this didn't take very long before something else, came a little bit more to the surface. And so it happens more often than you think, but people they don't dare to talk about it. It's also very, very scary for them to talk about it themselves very often.
Yeah.
It's very, it's very difficult for them to regulate with these stories. Yeah. But
I mean, it's what we talked about. Like, there's a normalized behavior of avoiding pain. I think a lot of people do that in one way or another, and use medication, or self-medication can mean so many things too. It can be actual pills. It can be drinking. It could be smoking. It could be buying a bunch of stuff, going to the store and just buying. There's so many ways to self-medicate, but the theme is avoidance. If you're avoiding the pain, you're not accepting it as being a part of you, then there's a disassociation, right? Is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Disconnect from it.
So, and if you're able to go through the pain, and it is sometimes easier when there's somebody with you, and you always have to go by yourself. Like nobody can go for you. You always have to do it yourself. But if there's people around you who support you, or who at least can listen to you, who at least don't tell you that you're crazy, but they can sit with you, this is already very beautiful, I think. And also through these experiences of working with people with the most complex trauma experiences, they also developed me. So I'm very grateful, actually, that they were letting me be of service, let's say. So because it really shaped me, like all these experiences from childhood, from what happened with my father, and he died actually when I was 18. So that was also a good moment to start thinking about death and what happens. If you don't believe in that religion anymore, you need to figure it out for yourself. So when death is popping up on your path, there's a lot to learn, and it will shape you. Like we all been shaped by people who died around us, or when we were having near-death experiences ourselves. This is very often the moment where the most freedom can be found as well. Yeah. So it's
love it. Yeah, this is interesting topic. If you guys want to see a few interviews I've done around satanic ritual abuse and MK Ultra, that's a big topic too, that kind of facilitated that path towards that. I did a interview with Ted Gunderson's son, because Ted's unfortunately passed away, and he talks about his dad's experience with that and all the paperwork he would bring home around it. I mean, there's so much evidence around RSAs, or RSAs or SRAs. Sorry, satanic ritual abuse. And then I also did an interview with Kathy O'Brien. Kathy O'Brien was somebody that experienced the CIA program, the MK Ultra program, and now is, I think, in her late 60s, I believe, and talks all about that and how that's a real program that has been happening and working for decades. So it's a real thing. Yeah. It's a real thing.
Also, my friend Anneke Lucas, I don't know if you ever heard of her, but she is in New York, and she's a good friend of mine. She's from Belgium originally, and she did a lot of work in her recovery, but now she speaks about it a lot. So there's really good videos about her website, annekelucas.com. She has a book where a memoir of a sex slave. So there's a lot, and I work with her as well, and together we also, like, she's doing a very big job, but also here in the Netherlands, we also want to create awareness, and it's a real thing. There's also official mental health institutes who are dealing with it here in the Netherlands, but not many. Only one that I know of who is really going into it. But it's so it's a real topic. But it's never truly safe for the people to speak up, so this is why I think they're very brave, and I really want to offer my support and help wherever I can in bringing awareness. Yeah.
Thank you so much for connecting with me. I have a few more questions left here before we wrap it up. So with everything that's been happening, I mean, I feel like you've experienced what I've experienced in mainstream narratives and those, social media sites and everything that's being discussed right now, and the pressures that we're feeling from the monetary system and the narratives themselves. How do you see humanity moving forward? Like, if you could project out, 3 to 5 years, do you see us becoming more suppressed into it? Or do you see there being more of an expression out?
Well, I think both. I think it's both happening, but I'm very optimistic. I'm very happy. I've always been a person who loves change, and I think chaos brings a lot of new opportunities. It is a time where we can also be very scared, and it can be challenging. But I believe it's an extreme big opportunity for anything to fall into place. Yeah, I think I'm very, very hopeful, and I think also the fear is real. So we need to get together. This is why I'm also a connector. I love to create networks and care circles. This is how I call it, to bring people together who are interested in similar kind of topics. And I love how you're doing it, also creating a network and a community. I think this is very, very important. So dare to speak up, which is still, I think, difficult for many people, including myself sometimes, because also I want to connect, and I serve just humans. I'm not serving only vexed people or unvexed people. I just serve people. And this is how I want to be. I see the world in a way that for me it's very clear, but it's not about me. I look like what's underneath that and what do I want to do. And I think connection in diversity is very important. So we need to stay connected with each other and keep talking, keep being inspired and curious about each other. And no matter what is your status of whatever, I think.
I love that. That's very well said. I've always said that, like, we have this ability to create a frequency, a vibration with this hole right here in our faces. And this is our most powerful tool. You can use it as a weapon. You can use it as something to heal. I mean, you can use this frequency for so many things. And what I feel needs to start happening is what you're saying is like creating communities, connecting with each other, using this technology, using Zoom, using the technology that they've given us and creating the frequency, normalizing a new vibration through what we speak. And I believe that, what should we speak about? Whatever feels integral, whatever you feel is your truth that you stand on and believe in. The more you speak about that, the better, no matter what it is,
Totally. Exactly. Yeah, because truth is truth. And maybe like my father, he thought his truth was truer. I thought my truth was truer when I was a teenager. But we were both speaking about the truth. No, we were not speaking. We were battling about the truth. Well, underneath, we were both this is another thing that I feel sometimes, or I'm curious, how would it be if he was still alive? Because he died when I was 18, a very long time ago. And right now, with how I am, how I develop myself right now, I would have such a different conversation. And like we are actually speaking about the same thing, the truth.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
I feel like all the black sheeps, you call yourself a black sheep. I call myself that too. We've become the bridges. We've become the bridges. So if you're, I can just share from my own experience. My dad had a very difficult time, even just 7 or 8 years ago, to even be able to hear what I was talking about. Because I did the same. My journey was like, I don't know anything. I need to search for what's real. What is real? So I can feel grounded in the belief, because I felt like I was in this bubble of the Pentecostal Christian church. And so once I started to question everything, my parents were they were shocked. They didn't even know how to communicate with me. They didn't know how to talk to me. But now in the last, and maybe I'm grateful really because of what's happened in the world in these last 4 years. It's shook everyone out of their reality. But now my dad is way more curious. And so our conversations really shifted to where I don't feel like I need to prove now anything, or we're getting into fights anymore. We're just sharing. And then it's oh, interesting. And then, and then we just accept or don't and just keep the conversation moving forward.
But curiosity is such a beautiful medicine. Curiosity, it's I said, time and space is beautiful medicine, but curiosity is it solves, I think, 80% of the world problems if we're curious again, and we're not trying to force our ideas on somebody else, but just being curious. Why are you believing what you believe, or something like that? And what you said, the black sheep. Those are often people who are very curious, or they are pointing out things actually where the pain points are. So this is why there are the black sheep. And I see this is very often also this group of people that are labeled, the ones that left the family, the ones that left the religion, the ones that the difficult ones, the crazy ones, the labeled ones, the psychotic ones, whatever in society. Yeah. But
actually,
that's all
me right here. I'm laughing because I'm yep, that's me. That's me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think it's very good to listen or to review what's going on here. Why is there 1 or 2 kids in the classroom that are, very difficult and always in the hallway? Instead of pushing them away, what are they pointing out? I'm pretty sure there's an issue in that system of the classroom. What they are pointing out, they're just very sensitive. but sensitive is difficult. So we rather like send it away. But yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah.
I love, I love to see it this way.
I love that. Love that. Man, this was such a great conversation. I do have one more question, but before I ask that, I want to give you a little moment to do maybe a little pitch, or, just share whatever you want to share about your platform. If you want to connect with Annika, she is on Instagram, Anneke Sips, all together. So ANN, N as in Nancy, EKESIPS. And that's also your website, right? AnnikeSips.com.
That's correct.
And you're taking clients from anywhere in the world?
Yeah, that's also correct. And I never have a waiting list. So, and I'm kind of creating in these those years that I'm working in my own practice. I'm creating kind of a way and a method that I would love to, make it also bigger and teach other people. Because that, for example, there's no waiting list. It's this simple. There's too many waiting lists in the Netherlands, and I guess all over the world. But what if we just remove this word waiting list from our vocabulary? Then it doesn't exist anymore. Like, what are you waiting for anyway on your waiting list? Like, why?
Good point.
And what are you waiting for? Like, till somebody's going to heal you? Like, what are you doing on your waiting list? So I removed that word. There's never a waiting list. And it's really busy. Like, I'm there, but it works out always perfectly fine. I don't know, for some reason, my practice flows like, very beautifully. So there's always space. So feel free to connect with me. And especially if you feel very stuck or in the darkness, the dark night of the soul, crisis, psychosis, complex trauma. Yeah, I love to have a conversation with you to see if you would love to work with me. So I work with internal family systems and yoga therapy and the polyvagal theory. These are like the cornerstones, a little bit of my work, and the online program. Like you said, the Dark Night of the Soul, this program I'm running again this year. So on my website, you can find all these informations. So I would love to meet people from everywhere.
And the book, The Wisdom of Psychosis, do you have an expected release date for that? Or is that still in the process?
Yeah, it's already in process, I think 4 years or something. But it was very difficult for me to get over the first blocks of I'm not an author, that kind of thing. But now I'm over it, and I'm kind of finished. I just need to edit it well. So I'm planning on finishing this year, and then the publisher will deal with the publication date and everything.
Yeah.
So it's going to be in English. So that's it's going to be published by Singing Dragon. That's a publisher. And I hope in 2025 it will hit the bookstores.
Yay. Cool stuff. Yeah. I've always wanted to write a book, but I'm at that point right now. I'm like, I'm not a writer. What am I going to talk about? I don't know how to put stuff in a book.
But I
get it. Yeah.
I know that feeling, but you should also. Yeah.
So last question. Huh?
It's a nice process at the end of the day. Like, it's really like getting your ideas together and stuff. Yeah.
What would you suggest I look at to feel more confidence? Is there something I can look up to start learning how to be an author?
Oh, no, I did all kinds of writing courses and creative writing. And at the end of the day, it's all about just start before you're ready. Just do it. Yeah.
just sit in front of the computer and just start typing words and see what comes out.
Yeah. Yes. and just I was also letting go of the idea of it, like it must be perfect or it must be even published because the topic is pretty particular. This is what I speak about. So the publisher was actually asking me, and I was like, oh my God, what is this? How should I do this? But it took a while, and now I see the fun of it. And I thought, if everything doesn't work out, I just have like 20 or whatever, 100 really good blog posts. I'm just thinking like this. Yeah.
That's a good way to look at it. I love
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
just to make it
That actually
simple.
makes me feel better just to hear that part. Cause I'm like, yeah, I can put stuff down and then at worst case, I can repurpose it. Just use it in my social
Totally.
media.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, good stuff. Okay. So last question here. And I love asking this question when putting people on the spot, but you're standing in front of millions of people. Okay. Millions of people are in front of you physically. You're in a stage. You have 90 seconds to leave them with something, advice or a quote. What do you leave them with?
Hmm. So I have 90 seconds now also myself. Yeah,
90 seconds.
90 seconds. Well, um, I would love to leave you with this message of try not to identify too much with anything, but being connected to your heart. Like just really find ways to connect to your heart, getting out of your head into your body and sink to your heart. Find your inner compass and wayfinding, like the Polynesians did. They had a little bit knowledge of the stars and the ocean, but they had a deeper knowing. I think, like, how do you know? How do you going to search for an island if you don't know what another island means? So how can you sink into your heart and really go back to the deeper layers of feelings and connect with this and let it guide you, fully trusting this guidance that comes from within your heart. Yeah, I think I would say something like that.
Thank you so much. That was so good, Annika. Thank you so much. This was such a great conversation. Again, if you want to connect with Annika, you can go to her website, AnnikeSips.com, or find her on Instagram, Anneke Sips, and look at all her stuff. She's been really amazing. And thank you for being a student. Thank you for learning, and going down this road of learning this complex topic that's so complex. But that's what it takes sometimes, is just being willing to honor yourself and step into the difficult, step into the thing that's hard, and become the hero. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you, Annika, again. I really appreciate your time, your energy. And last but not least, always remember, gamify your abundance. Love you guys.